Gold, silver, instant wealth, the American dream. That promise pulled hundreds of thousands into mining towns across the West. California in 1849, Colorado in 1859, Nevada after 1859, South Dakota in 1876. Most people didn't get rich. A few did. But it usually wasn't the guy with the pickaxe. Let's talk about how mining towns really worked and who actually made the money. When someone found gold or silver, the news spread fast. Within weeks, people poured in. Towns appeared almost overnight. One day it was open land. The next it was tents, shacks, and a few rough wooden buildings. Early boom towns had little structure, few officials, few services, not much sanitation, and a lot of desperate people chasing a rumor. Merchants showed up just as fast as miners. They sold food, tools, clothing, and supplies at brutal prices. During the California gold rush, people reported eggs selling for around $1 each in some places. Bread could cost 50 cents. Tools could cost a small fortune. Why were prices so high? Supply and demand? Everything had to be hauled long distances over bad roads, across mountains, or by ship. When supplies were scarce, prices exploded. Here's the key point. Merchants often made steadier money than miners. A miner could spend months digging and find nothing, but the store owner made profit on every sale, day after day, whether anyone struck it rich or not. Levi Strauss got wealthy selling sturdy work pants to miners. What became Levi's jeans? He didn't mine for gold. Sam Brannan, a businessman near Sutter's Mill, made a fortune by pushing the gold news and then selling supplies. He became one of California's earliest millionaires, not by mining, but by selling to miners. Now, the mining itself, in the early phase, many people used simple methods like panning in streams or digging shallow gravel deposits. This was placer mining. A small number of miners did well, especially early on, but for most, the results were disappointing. Only a tiny fraction ever became wealthy. The easiest gold was found quickly. After that, what remained was deeper underground or locked inside rock. Getting it out took capital and machinery, deep shafts, pumps, hoists, stamp mills to crush ore, later chemical processes to pull gold from crushed rock. Individual miners usually couldn't afford this. Mining shifted into an industrial business. Companies moved in. They hired miners as wage workers. Pay varied by place and time, but in many camps, a miner might earn a few dollars a day for dangerous work underground. Many of the people who came west dreaming of independence ended up as employees doing brutal labor for someone else's profit. Working conditions were harsh and often deadly. Shafts collapsed. Explosions happened. Fires spread. Toxic gases suffocated men. Dust from drilling and blasting damaged lungs over time. Injuries and deaths were common. Hard rock mining was especially dangerous. Miners drilled into rock, packed the holes with explosives, and blasted it apart. Misfires and premature explosions killed and maimed workers. Gold processing was also toxic. Mercury was widely used to separate gold from sediment and crushed ore. Later, cyanide leaching became common in industrial-scale operations. These chemicals harmed workers and contaminated waterways. Mercury exposure could cause tremors, tooth loss, and neurological damage. Accidents and long-term illness ruined lives. Mining towns produced fortunes and funerals. Now let's talk about who did the work. Chinese immigrants made up a major share of California's mining workforce. By the early 1850s, roughly a quarter of miners in California were Chinese. They also faced extreme discrimination. California passed the foreign miners tax in 1850, and later versions hit Chinese miners especially hard. The fees could be several dollars a month, a heavy burden for people already being pushed onto poorer claims. Violence and harassment were common. Many Chinese miners were forced off productive ground. Even so, they often survived by working claims others had abandoned and by using careful, efficient methods. Anti-Chinese violence grew worse over time. In Rock Springs, Wyoming, in 1885, white miners killed at least 28 Chinese miners and drove hundreds more out of town. Attacks like this happened in other places across the West too. Now the boom and bust cycle. Mining towns grew fast when new ore was found. Then they crashed when the easy money ran out. Virginia City, Nevada boomed after the Comstock lode discovery in 1859. By 1870, it had around 25,000 people and a level of wealth that looked shocking for the frontier. Opera houses, mansions, newspapers, saloons everywhere. When production dropped, the population fell hard. By 1900, it was far smaller than its peak. Today, it's a small town built around tourism and history. Leadville, Colorado boomed after major silver finds in the late 1870s. It grew quickly. Then the silver crash of 1893 hit like a hammer. The town didn't vanish, but it took a major blow. Deadwood, South Dakota boomed after gold was found in 1876. It grew fast, with plenty of crime and chaos in its early years. Today it survives largely through tourism and its Wild West reputation. This pattern repeated again and again. Booms turned into ghost towns, or into half-alive towns that never fully recovered. Life inside these towns was messy. Before formal law took hold, miners set up their own local rules. Mining districts formed and created claim systems. They sometimes elected officials to settle disputes. Sometimes it worked. Often it didn't. Claim jumping was common. Arguments over land turned violent fast. As towns grew, law enforcement arrived. But corruption often followed. Gambling halls and brothels paid bribes. Some judges sided with mining companies, especially when labor disputes heated up. Gambling, drinking, and prostitution thrived. Even miners who struck it rich could lose everything in weeks. And the environmental damage was enormous. Hydraulic mining used high-pressure water cannons to blast hillsides apart. It sent millions of tons of debris into rivers. Fish habitats were wrecked. Farmland downstream was buried under mud and gravel. In California, the damage was so severe that courts stepped in. In 1884, federal rulings effectively shut down large-scale hydraulic mining in much of the state after farmers sued. Mercury contamination was another long shadow. Mercury used in gold processing spilled into streams and soil. Some of that mercury is still present today, and it still shows up in waterways and fish. Forests were cut down for mine timbers and fuel for smelters. Whole slopes were stripped bare. And then there was the stock scam economy. Mining companies sold shares to raise money. Some were real, many were frauds. Promoters sold stock in mines that were worthless, depleted, or barely even there. Newspapers ran ads promising massive returns. A lot of investors back east bought dreams and got nothing. So who got rich? A few early prospectors who hit rare luck. A few men who moved from mining into ownership. George Hearst is a classic example. He invested in major strikes, including the Comstock region, and later gained wealth through large-scale mining ventures. He became very rich, but stories like his were rare. Owners, executives, and investors made the biggest fortunes. In Montana, the Copper Kings like Marcus Daly and William A. Clark became some of the wealthiest men in America. Merchants, saloon owners, and service providers also did well. They made steady money even when miners didn't. But the average person who rushed to a mining town hoping to strike it rich? Most went broke. Many worked for wages, saved little, and moved on. Some stayed and became shopkeepers or laborers. Some returned home poorer than when they left. Mining rushes were lotteries with terrible odds. You were far more likely to leave exhausted, injured, or broke than you were to leave rich. By the 1890s, the era of the independent prospector was fading. Mining had become industrial. Heavy machinery, corporate ownership, and wage labor took over. The romance died, but the myth grew. Within a few decades, movies turned mining camps into adventure settings and brushed aside the exploitation, the fraud, the discrimination, the dangerous labor, and the environmental wreckage. The real story of mining towns is capitalism with the gloves off, risk, exploitation, and wealth flowing upward. Most miners didn't strike gold. They broke their bodies and gambled their lives, making other people rich. That's the part Hollywood likes to skip.